a picture of how strongly we believe that you need to obey the laws of the land and you need to follow suit to what marriage is according to the state of California. If a couple comes to me, which they did about 6 months ago, and they wanted me to marry them, and they've been living together for 6 years, they bought a house together, they have dogs together, and they said, well, we were convicted, we go to the Rock, we've been going to the Rock for 6 years, all of a sudden we felt like maybe we should just get married. So they said to me, will you marry me, Pastor? And I said, no, absolutely not. Not unless you move out for a minimum of 3 months. And so he packed his stuff up and moved in with his mom as a 36-year-old man for 3 months because I wanted to make sure that they were starting this marriage off, committing it to the Lord and making sacrifices. And he said, I love her that much, I'll do that. So if that is what the intent of that question is,
I think it is.
I'm pretty sure it is, then marriage is a legal union between one man, one woman, and it happens by an officiant that makes the whole thing happen in a certificate.
I was going to say no shortcuts.
No shortcut.
Because you can't. I know friends of mine and also people who have tried to like shortcut it by going like, well, if we just go to the courthouse and you can do that legally in the state of California and you will be pronounced married, but you talk about not having the most major part of your community and also representation by your Lord in that union. You know what I'm saying? So I know plenty of people who have like ran to the courthouse to go get married because they feel like they're in love and they don't want to tell any of their community because their community would tell them you're crazy, don't do it, because they know them, right? But they're like, I don't care. Like, we're going, and I don't think that's legit. I don't think that's a legit marriage. You might have a piece of paper that says California recognizes you as being married, but there's a very different thing than to literally give yourself in marriage. And I think that involves a part of your heart that only belongs to the Lord. And so you can't run, and at the same time you can't go the opposite way and just be like, well, if we love each other, we'll just commit to the Lord that we're married, and I'll put a piece of grass on your finger. Like, I know couples who have done that where they're just like, we don't need the state. We don't need
couples that put a piece of grass on their
Well, I mean, I don't know. They were just whatever. And they thought, we love each other, and we've already committed in our hearts that you're the one, and I'm not going to sleep with anybody else, even though we already slept together. Like, they're shortcutting. It's a shortcut. And so I think that you've got to have both elements. You've got to have, almost in a weird way, your pastoral representation, your community there to support it. But also, you got to go by the laws of the land. I think that's right. I don't think there's any much more to say about that.
And I feel like that pretty much covers how do you feel about sex out of marriage. But if you want to fill in more on that.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
Andy?
Yeah. No. Well, the reason why I do that is because before I was Christian or anything like that, I did do sexual impurity with my last relationship. And getting out of that relationship, it was really difficult because I saw that through that sexual impurity, that through that relationship, there was so much more there than I could have ever imagined. Because really, I was just giving a piece of myself to her, a piece of my heart. And it was very difficult, very tough, and I just see the emotional pain, the hurt that is caused because of that. So, no more. Like, not until I'm married.
I will say, I will add this. Some friends of Mingo and mine, actually, is one of Mingo's friends. They were moving down that road really quickly in the beginning stages of their relationship. They decided to put the brakes on it, and then for 6 years, they didn't even kiss, right? Yeah, they didn't even kiss for 6 years. They held hands. That was the extent of their physical contact. And I had the privilege of pronouncing them husband and wife. And I got to tell you, the most passionate kiss I've ever seen. Beyond Hollywood. Beyond any. After that kiss, I pronounced them husband and wife. We didn't see half of the wedding party for a long time. The guests, they went off. I don't know what they were doing, but then they came back to the reception. But I'm just saying, if you can hold out, even with that, the question should not be how close can we get. It should be how far can we avoid that. How far can we stay away from that? And it's almost like a game for these two. Anyways, it was amazing, and it was all him that said we're going to do this, but it was all her that enforced it. And so it'll take both of you to make that happen, and that's not an indication of who's the spiritual leader. That's just hormones. So make that decision. We're going to stay really far away, and then help each other out, ladies. Hook a brother up, please. I know it's summertime in San Diego, but it's been cold outside, so that's good, but just be careful. Help your man out in that department, okay?
Awesome, thank you. Okay, this next one, it can be for all of you, but what was or is your biggest fear prior to marriage? How did you face it, and how did you overcome it?
Cockroaches,
They are really scary.
like in Mexico.
You live in the ghetto.
Fallon steps on them now, so I'm cool.
She's the protector.
She protects me.
For real? I think that's true.
No, biggest fear before marriage? Before marriage, what was my biggest fear?
About relationships, about Fallon. Just kidding.
Have you seen the girl? She's dangerous.
I was, yeah. we know each other
I think
way
my
different.
biggest fear before marriage, and Ricky can attest to this because I spent a lot of time coming to Ricky asking about it, was knowing if I was ready to be the total package. And I think it's a big fear in a lot of guys' hearts is to know the depth and the brevity and, you know, the vast expansion of what it means to be a husband and to lead like God in a relationship. I mean, that if that's not a fear that the person you're considering marrying is fearing, you should wonder about his heart, you know, because that is such a huge step to see what it means to lead like Christ. That was my biggest fear, was am I capable of doing that? And it took conversation after conversation after conversation with Ricky just to explore what that meant, you know. So that was my biggest fear before marriage, was just could I cut it? Because I didn't know. And I came from a jacked up family that didn't really do it right, and so I just feared like that repetition, that cycle, you know. If you have any familiarity with like the things your parents do that you don't want to do, you know, I feared that. And so what was awesome is that the answer to that is that in Christ all things are made new. Despite family history or even your own history, if you abandon yourself all the way to Christ, he renews you. And so there is no pattern that is established. It's Christ who is the pattern. And so you can jump in face first and go, I'm here to serve you. I'm here to love you. I'm jacked up, but we're going to make this happen, and I'm going to die doing it, you know. So that was probably my biggest fear.
My biggest fear was, you know, just really trusting God and believe that this is the right person for me. And it's scary because you don't know what God is thinking. You know, none of us do. But it's like, God, you have me with this person for a reason. You've aligned things perfectly for a reason. And God, you've placed this on my heart for a reason. And it's just, it's fearful because you're about to make a huge commitment. You know, as a man, you're about to make a huge commitment to provide and to take care of the gift that God is about to give you. And all that combined with, God, is this the person? So it can be just the second guessing God that brings the fear. You know, don't doubt what God has for you or what he's enabled you to do. So, yeah.
RP, do you remember? I mean, is your memory good?
Wow,
I mean,
dude, that's...
yeah, it's like kind of far away, but, you know.
You know, I share a similar history with Mingo. My father was very abusive and destructive towards my mother. And when I was 13, I basically was the man of the household, took care of my mom and my two older sisters, which were kind of like younger sisters in their maturity level. And I actually believe that I really have a grasp on women, because that's all I was around. I mean, it was like my sisters would bring all their girlfriends over, and then they were all hot, and so I like would, you know, give them popcorn and stuff for the movies, and they're like, oh, your little brother's so cute. And then when I see them around campus, they give me hugs and stuff, and all my boys were like, yeah, dude. So I was like, it's crazy if I'm not gonna be a punk to my sisters because they have hot friends, you know. So like I figured this whole thing out, but I had these long conversations with these girls that would come over to their house, and they ended up would pour out their hearts, you know, and I learned how to listen to women, and so I didn't actually fear whether or not I'd be able to love this woman, this amazing gift that the Lord gave me, Nova. I feared that. My only fear, if I had a fear, I was more excited than fearful. I was very excited to enter into a relationship with someone that was Christ-centered, because I never had a Christian girlfriend. I didn't date girls that were nice. I ended up just getting with these gnarly girls that were just mean and, you know, hated on other women and stuff. And here Nova, she's beautiful, she's talented, she's gifted, but she can sit down and cry with someone who's crying. And I mean, still to this day, we go out to a restaurant, I'm starving, my son's starving, the waitress looks like she's having a bad day. Next thing I know, she's in the stall with my wife, and they're crying together. I'm like, can I just go get the food? I'm hungry. It's like, and I never met a really beautiful woman that was nice. I never met a woman like that. And so actually my fear was letting her down. I didn't want to let her down. I didn't want my old self, because I'd only been a Christian a short time, so I didn't want my old self to come out. And so I was fearful of anything of letting her down. That was about it.
That's good. Mingo, this one's for you. The ladies would like